Imagine sailing across the endless Pacific Ocean, thousands of miles away from civilization, until suddenly, out of the fog, giant stone faces begin appearing on the horizon. Massive statues, silent, emotionless, watching. No one knows exactly how they were moved. No one fully understands why an entire civilization dedicated its life to building them. And even more disturbing, the people who created them nearly disappeared. This is the terrifying mystery of Easter Island. In the middle of the Pacific Ocean lies one of the most isolated inhabited places on Earth, a tiny volcanic island known as Easter Island, or as the natives call it, Rapa Nui. The island belongs to Chile today, but geographically, it sits alone in the ocean, over 2,000 miles away from the nearest populated land. No large forests, no massive cities, no advanced technology. And yet somehow, centuries ago, the people living here carved and transported nearly 1,000 gigantic stone statues known as the Moai. Some weighed more than 80 tons. And that's where the mystery begins. Historians believe the first settlers arrived on Easter Island around 1,200 years ago. Imagine the journey. Small wooden canoes crossing one of the largest oceans on Earth. No GPS, no maps, only stars, wind, and instinct guiding them through darkness. When they finally reached the island, they found paradise. The land was covered with palm forests, birds filled the skies, food was everywhere. The settlers built villages, created traditions, and formed clans. Over time, their civilization grew stronger. But eventually, they started carving stone. Not small statues, gigantic human figures unlike anything else on Earth. The Moai are what made Easter Island famous. These enormous statues were carved mainly from volcanic rock at a place called Rano Raraku Quarry. The strange thing is, many of them were never fully completed. Even today, unfinished Moai remain frozen in the rock as if the workers suddenly disappeared. Each statue represented an important ancestor. The islanders believed the spirits of their ancestors lived inside the Moai and protected the people. But creating them was unbelievably difficult. Some statues stood over 30 feet tall. Others weighed more than a fully loaded truck. And here's the question that still confuses experts. How did they move them across the island without cranes, trucks, or machines? For decades, scientists argued over this mystery. One theory suggested the islanders placed the statues on wooden logs and rolled them across the land. But there's a problem. Easter Island eventually lost nearly all of its trees. Some researchers believe the obsession with moving statues caused massive deforestation. According to this theory, the islanders cut down so many trees that they destroyed their own environment. Without forests, the soil became weak, crops failed, food became scarce, and society slowly collapsed. But another theory is even stranger. Some scientists believe the statues were actually walked. Yes, walked. Using ropes tied around the statues, groups of people may have rocked them side to side, slowly moving them forward like a refrigerator being shuffled across a floor. And strangely enough, modern experiments showed it might actually work. Imagine seeing hundreds of people dragging a giant stone face across the island while chanting together. It must have looked surreal. Then something terrible happened. At some point, the civilization began collapsing. Resources became limited, food shortages increased, conflict spread between clans. Archaeologists discovered evidence that many Moai statues were deliberately knocked over. The people who once worshipped them suddenly started destroying them. Why? No one knows for sure. Some historians believe civil war broke out across the island. Others think environmental disaster pushed society into chaos. There are even dark stories of starvation and violence during the island's final years before European arrival. And then, outsiders arrived. Then, something terrible happened. At some point, the civilization began collapsing. Resources became limited, food shortages increased, conflict spread between clans. Archaeologists discovered evidence that many Moai statues were deliberately knocked over. The people who once worshipped them suddenly started destroying them. Why? No one knows for sure. Some historians believe civil war broke out across the island. Others think environmental disaster pushed society into chaos. There are even dark stories of starvation and violence during the island's final years before European arrival. And then, outsiders arrived.
But the deeper researchers looked into Easter Island, the stranger it became. Most Moai statues face inland instead of toward the ocean. Why? Because they weren't meant to guard against invaders. They were meant to watch over the people. Even creepier, many statues have bodies buried underground. For years, people thought they were only giant heads, but excavations revealed full torsos hidden beneath the soil. Some statues even contain mysterious carvings on their backs. And then there's the eyes. Originally, many Moai had white coral eyes placed into their faces. Imagine how terrifying they must have looked when completed, staring across the island with glowing white eyes.
Even today, Easter Island remains full of unanswered questions. How exactly were the statues transported? Why did the islanders suddenly stop building them? Did environmental destruction truly destroy the civilization? Or is the story more complicated than historians first believed? Some modern researchers now argue the collapse may have been exaggerated, and that European diseases caused far more damage than the islanders themselves. So perhaps the people of Easter Island were not foolish destroyers, but survivors of unimaginable hardship. Today, the Moai still stand across the island, weathered by centuries of wind and storms, silent witnesses to a forgotten world. And maybe that's what makes Easter Island so haunting. Not just the giant statues, but the realization that an entire civilization poured its identity, beliefs, and future into these massive stone faces, only to fade into mystery. And somewhere in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, the Moai are still watching.